Who is this?
Hello?
Etienne.
Who am I speaking to?
This is Drew, and Trudy is also here, and Mark is here as well. How are you doing?
Mark, which Mark?
Me.
Huh?
Me. Mark Fellhauer.
Yeah, from Detroit.
From Detroit.
Yeah. How are you?
Good. I mean,
what a wild week.
You're from Detroit?
Yeah, what a weird week.
No, it's weird. The story is not just a New York area story, New Jersey area. It's a nationwide, international story, and we had heard about you living next door and the run-in that you had. And
I got to tell you, I'm getting calls up the yin yang with and I couldn't understand your message very well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I'm telling my wife, they say Detroit.
Yeah.
And she's like, I think so. And I said, get out of here, Detroit.
Yeah,
and I said, holy crap. Okay.
There are things west of the Hudson.
No, I understand. I get you. I'm just, kind of like, a little surprised.
I got to tell you, I'm surprised that you haven't had calls from California, Nevada, Dallas, Texas.
Oh, my God, I've gotten calls from Chris Cuomo, from, People Magazine. It's nonstop. It's nonstop. And I tell you the truth, I'm not answering any of them. You guys kind of like, I said, Detroit, oh, boy.
Oh,
really?
Thank you.
So you only will talk to you only talk to the small potatoes people that call you?
No. You guys are the big time. What are you kidding? Motown? What are you kidding?
You know how to flatter a woman.
When Motown calls, I listen.
Oh, are you a big Motown music fan?
Well, yeah, I'm in my 60s. Who wouldn't be, right?
Mm-hmm. Who's your favorite?
Oh, Stevie Wonder. The Temptations. I go on and on and on. Smokey.
Yeah, Marvin Gaye.
Marvin,
Martha and the Vandellas. Mary Wells.
I grew up with that. I've seen the Temptations on the Ed Sullivan Show.
Really?
The show. I was there. Yeah.
You were there?
But
you had tickets?
I'm not that old, but
no kidding. Was that the only time you got to see the Ed Sullivan Show?
Yeah.
How did you get so lucky? I would assume it would be really hard to get in that studio audience back then.
No, it was easy because then it became, I think, the Jay Leno show or something like that. The studio.
I don't think so.
But it was pretty. I don't remember. A friend of mine got tickets and we went down there, and it's funny because we're online. And Eddie Kendricks and Paul passed by us with their long fur coats.
Oh, cool!
Nice.
And the hats. And my friend who's really into them, he pulls me off the line. He says, "Come here." And we followed them down the street. He's Paul, Eddie, and they turned around and said, "Hey, man, how's it going?" We actually got to talk to them, and we said, "Oh my God, that was great." And we're like 10 years old,
Oh, really? What a thrill! Well, I don't suppose you were there. You weren't there February 9th, 1964, when the Beatles were playing, were you?
No, I was. I was. I'm 67. I was 6 years older, I guess, right?
Okay, that's crazy. Anyway, we know you're a firefighter, and you live next door to Rex. And did you have much contact with him? Now, we know there was eventually an incident, but generally speaking, did you guys have much contact?
Oh yeah, regularly every day I spoke to him. I was, the only guy that ever spoke to the guy. I mean, he was kind of a little bit of a recluse. The house was a shamble in a nice neighborhood, and people would stay away from him. So, and of course, he was my next door neighbor. We were cordial, and we weren't close friends or anything, but we spoke almost every day, and pleasantries and stuff like that.
You weren't scared of him?
Because I don't judge. He's you got to treat people good.
Sure, but you were not afraid of him, so to speak.
No, he was he was as big as he was 6'4", 250 or so, and I'm not a huge guy, but I spent 20 years going into burning buildings, so
yeah. No, you're not afraid of him.
No, he never showed to be intimidating or aggressive or anything. The violence part of the whole story is surprising to me. Because he never showed to be an aggressive or angry or like that. What went on with his family, they were pretty strange. But as far as the wife, she actually had a touch of an anger to her, but he didn't. He was, he was rather pleasant.
That's interesting because I have not heard, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong. I haven't heard anything about his wife or what she's like, or it just seemed like almost like she barely exists. But you must have had some contact with her, but you found her to be a little off-putting.
Oh yeah, she was. Whenever I spoke to her, it was out of necessity. Here's your garbage can cover. Yeah, okay, put it there.
Wow.
Stuff like
dismissive.
It was never a conversation. It was something that had to be said. And, okay, yes, fine. I'll tell them later.
And what about I feel so bad, but they did have a couple kids, right?
Mm-hmm, too.
Well, yeah, and the kids were Chris, the son, is a special needs kid who's probably in his mid to upper 20s. And as a very sweet kid and really nice, and I always felt sorry for the kid. They had him mowing lawns with one of the old-fashioned motorless, the rotary things.
Oh, really? Oh, come on.
God.
You got to be kidding me. Come on, Rex.
And Rex is an enormous guy, and he had his kid doing that, the shoveling the snow, all that. But Chris is just a sweet kid that was very, quiet. And about 6 months ago, they got him a little dog from a shelter, and he just came to life. Aww. And he was so happy all the time, and we talk, and the dog's name was Stuart. And we talk about Stuart, and I pet him, and I was... And I hope they didn't take him away from this Stuart now, but he's a nice kid.
Gosh,
and
I wonder...
The daughter is a very introverted type of girl, like semi-goth.
Oh. Okay. That makes sense.
Demi-goth. Mm-hmm.
And, yeah, not totally the black...
just halfway.
All that, but little purple hair, and kept to herself, and her similar... No anger, though, with her. It was just high and by, though. We'll just wave to each other.
Did you ever get inside the house? Because I read a story about the interior decorator, and I thought, oh, my God, he had an interior decorator. That seems so weird.
The closest I ever came, because they would invite, he tried to buddy up with me. I really didn't want to, associate with him too much. But he was my neighbor, so we kept it cordial. And he invited me to card games, and I always said no. And one time they left some luggage outside. Somebody came in the house, and they left the luggage right outside the taxi. The taxi drove away, and I brought the luggage to their doorstep, and you had to go into the porch.
Yeah.
And when I knocked on the door, and they just opened the door, and I got a look, but they didn't let me in.
Oh, wow.
So
they're hiding something.
Down and I walked out, and that was that. So I'd never been in the house.
Did he have...
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, no, I'd seen pictures of his house, and I'm looking at one online here, and he's got
it's a horror. It's a mess.
Exactly, and he had.
It's a very nice neighborhood. They just tore down 3 houses around within a block of us, and the houses they're putting up are selling for $1.3 million.
Wow! Oh, and he owned. He had property all over the country.
Well, I knew about we talked about the Carolina property. The other stuff I didn't know about. But he used to tell me that he had a few acres. His brother also has some acreage in the same town in Carolina, and he told me that he was going to plan to move there. But he's been talking about that for a few years.
Did he have a classic car in his driveway too, covered in a tarp?
Well, that's a Jeep, an old World War II Jeep that has no wheels. I've seen them driving the thing maybe 2 or 3 times. But he's had it for about 10 years now, I guess. That it's been sitting there at the top on cinder blocks.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Are you the White House or are you the White House or the beige house?
I'm the beige house. I'm on the corner. If you're facing his house, I'm to the right of it.
It's a nice little house. I like your fall decorations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much.
What are the fall decorations you're looking at, Mark?
I'll show you, Drew.
Let's take a look at it.
It's just amazing the difference between. Everybody knows.
My wife is big into decorations.
Oh,
She'll decorate for everything. Christmas, we light everything up.
I love the colors. Look at the
you got an inflatable turkey.
Colors.
Inflatable turkey. I think this is a while ago, but
like a Cape Cod or
pilgrims. Yeah.
I like the color too.
It's a nice house.
God, the colors are fantastic. Anyway,
how do we get here? I'm sorry. There's that murderer's house. Yikes.
Did you ever know that he had this this avalanche that was found in South Carolina? It sounded like the avalanche, that vehicle.
No, The car, his truck?
Yeah, the Avalanche.
It's right here on Google.
He's had that for 15 years or so. He's had that
murder
car
truck.
You can see it on Google Street View.
He had it hidden in South Carolina. That's where they found it at the other property. Mm-hmm. Actually, was it a relative?
I don't know about that. I know he's had that truck for the longest time, probably some 15 years or so.
Yeah, it's interesting because it sounds like
that's not a new truck.
With the properties that he does have in Carolina, and I think he's got a property. Was it out west? Somewhere?
Yeah, Vegas. I thought he had.
Yeah, Vegas.
I heard the news say something about a condo in Vegas, but he never talked about that.
But doesn't it surprise you that he didn't keep up his house? He's an architect, and yet his house does look shambles.
There was times that I thought that he was lying about being an architect. He's phenomenal. He's phenomenal about with woodwork. He built a swing set in the back with 4x4s. I mean, a really nice swing set. And I don't know if you guys know anything about carpentry. I sided my own house and do my bathrooms and stuff. So, but he built that swing set without using nails. With pegs and knowing how to do the joint works and all that. So he's that good as far as knowledge of carpentry work. But the house, for the 28 years that I've been living here, I've heard time and time again, I'm going to do this. The guy's never done nothing. And believe it or not, guys, right now that house is the best it's been in like years.
Really? Huh. What did he? How is it better than it was?
He had a hole in his roof that water was leaking through one time, and me and my neighbor across the street looked. He put a big 10x10 piece of aluminum on top of it, and everybody was just, Jesus Christ, we got to live by this,
What an awkward position to put you in.
Yeah.
As the next door neighbor, because you got to say something.
Yeah. We occasionally said something, but I mean, if the guy doesn't have the money or he can't or whatever, I mean, what are you going to do?
I know, except
he really wasn't a bad guy. When we talked, it was always a pleasant conversation. He didn't bother anybody.
Until he oogles your wife.
Well, that was at the beginning.
Yeah,
and I'm a retired city fireman, New York City fireman, and when I'm at work, at night tours and stuff like that, and then she would come home and tell me, we moved from the city, from Astoria, Queens, where we lived in apartments. So now we have a backyard, and she's got lounge chairs.
Sweet.
My wife is a beautiful lady, and she's back there with getting a little sun, and after she says this guy keeps looking over and talking, and I figured maybe he's just being friendly. And then after a while, I said, now she's getting creeped out. And then I had to have a talk with the guy, and it wasn't a pleasant talk.
Oh, man. Now, that's so hard to bring up, too. And knowing what we know about him now, it seems even more tricky. Yeah. It sounds like your wife's pretty hot, by the way.
But he didn't. I kind of threatened him,
Really?
Blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to say what I said to him. But
how did he respond to that? Because I wonder if anyone ever talked to him like that. How did he respond when you threatened him?
I'll tell you, he didn't go after me. He didn't confront. He said, "I'm sorry, I'll never." Blah blah blah. He backed off immediately. But he had a neighbor at the other side, that White House, that moved years ago. That was a real tough Italian.
Yeah.
And he threatened to put a bag across his head.
What was that about?
He had a couple of problems with them, but with this guy Joe, Joe, he was a tough guy. And,
wish you had taken it back to him.
And Rex, yeah, exactly. And then you realize that this guy was enormous, but he was a wuss.
Oh,
he was. So he really was a wuss.
That's why he took it out on younger women.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, would you once you went up to him, like, he would back down immediately.
Would you have ever guessed that this guy was going through just dozens and dozens of prostitutes? Would that have ever entered your mind?
No. I his wife is not an attractive woman at all.
Not like your wife.
And no, not even close. But
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I get it.
I'm sorry. Somebody was just calling. I just went to see who
That's
called.
Okay. No problem.
It's another calling. Another agency calling. But I'm not going to call them back. They're not Motown.
Yeah.
Hell no. Oh, woman.
Yeah, thanks.
But, there you go.
So yeah, so she wasn't. She was not a home run as far as attractiveness.
No, and as far
Unlike
as
your
him, you know, with women like that, outside of that thing, I couldn't see that guy, you know, being like you know, he just was an awkward-looking, nerdy-looking, not an attractive-looking person, you know. And I guess he would need to use hookers. There's a story going around about we have a preserve right by us, a few blocks from us, the Massapequa Preserve, and there's a girl that it was in the news that said that she was running a preserve, and he popped out of her popped out of the woods a couple of times and tried to start a conversation.
Oh yeah, we heard about that.
Yeah.
He was creeping her.
I just read about that myself, and I didn't know about that.
Wow.
So
yeah, so you can't imagine him actually picking up a chick somewhere at a bar or something like that. That would not happen.
No. If he picked up a chick in a bar, it would probably be a transsexual that looked like him. You know, I mean, that's about the only thing that would talk to him. You know,
That'd be perfect for him.
Did you?
yeah. I mean, I couldn't see a nice looking girl, you know, saying 2 words to the guy. You know,
he's weird.
Exactly.
Did you ever talk about the murders with him? I mean, because other people have said that. Oh, yeah.
Talked to everyone about him. It seemed like he couldn't stop talking about him.
I never. And anybody who said he spoke to him is full of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought
Nobody
so too.
spoke to this guy. The only one who spoke to this guy was me, and only because I'm next door. If I lived another house down, I probably wouldn't have spoke to him.
Sure.
Really?
I mean, he was there, and he's my neighbor. We got to be cordial, and we got to live together. So,
But he was that.
and he was always pleasant. He never started trouble. You know, after that, he was fine. And we never, you know, outside of how the house was a mess and blah, blah, blah. But every time we spoke, it was, you know, it was a decent conversation. And okay, goodbye. And that was it.
But you think he was that buttoned down with everybody else? He was really that buttoned down, so to speak?
It wasn't him that was buttoned down. People wouldn't talk to him.
Yeah,
He was scary.
terrifying.
And they would stay away from him.
Yeah.
There was a lady on the block whose kid went to school with his daughter, and they asked him if it was okay if their daughter could come to their house and play with their daughter, and they said no.
Oh,
I don't want my kid in your house.
Oh boy!
Good.
Wow.
So that
good
was pretty
instinct.
much like parents would say, stay away from them.
Yeah.
And Halloween, we'd get big bags of candy and to give the kids, and they'd go across the street, and a lot of them came to our house, but a lot of them stayed across the street. And I used to wonder, why don't they cross the street? And sometimes I thought maybe it's because of the house.
Yeah.
So if somebody was to interview people in your neighborhood who were familiar with him, they would maybe say that they weren't that surprised that he was the Long Island serial killer. I mean, he's that unlikable.
I'm surprised that I'm surprised myself, because as awkward and as nerdy and as strange and odd as they were, I really never noticed any kind of violent tendencies coming out of the guy, as far as, hurting people and stuff like that. He liked to talk about his size a lot. He liked to act like he was big. But the people that I know that went to school with him said that when he was in high school and stuff like that, he wasn't that big, and he was scared, and he was bullied and stuff like that when he was young. That's
interesting.
A few of the people that I know that went to school with him.
Oh, was it Billy Baldwin? Did you know Billy Baldwin went to school with him?
I don't know Billy Baldwin, but I know people from the neighborhood that went to school with him, and that's what I'm hearing, that he was picked on, and he wasn't that big. When his brother is, who I only met a handful of times, and I never really spoke to him.
Well,
is 6'6".
Oh,
no kidding! Wow.
And he killed a cop. He killed a cop in '88 or something.
I read that. Yeah, the Post had that.
Wait, in a car accident? How did he kill him?
Drunk driving thing, and killed a cop.
Jesus.
What a great family.
I was going to stop you at Billy Baldwin and see if you had heard much about Billy Baldwin back in the high school days. Did the gossip get that far?
I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. The Baldwin's father was a teacher in Massapequa High, and everybody that I grew up in Astoria, I've been out here for 28 years. I can go to school here, but everybody that went to school here that I know, that knows them, that nobody likes the Baldwin. Absolutely. They were all arrogant assholes, as I was told.
Yeah, they're living up to it.
Baldwin, the youngest one, I don't know his name. They said was okay.
Stephen.
But the other four were arrogant assholes.
Yeah, they're living up to it, definitely. I'm sorry, Mark. What were you going to say?
Well, no, because we also saw that story in the Post about that Rex had sued a neighbor for $5 million. He jumped in front of her car. Did you know that neighbor and his girlfriend?
No. I don't think it was a neighbor that he sued.
Okay.
But I recently had an accident with one of our cars. We got T-boned, and we got it home before they took it away and totaled it. And this is about a month and a half ago. Excuse me. And he talked to us about that. He mentioned.
Really?
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I talked a lot because of the fire department stuff. They put me out from 9/11 with the lungs.
Oh boy,
Jesus.
Jeez.
But he talked to us about the lawsuits.
Wow. Well, so he's interested in that.
He told us that we should sue, and we just said, yeah, goodbye.
Yeah, that makes when people say that they reveal a lot. I think.
Thanks for your service in the FDNY, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. My pleasure. Pleasure.
What happened on 9/11? Were you called in right away?
Yeah, it was like in the movie The Total Recall, and I wasn't working at the time. Me and 15 of the guys from my firehouse were playing golf.
Oh wow!
And
really?
and they came over and told us that a plane hit the towers, and then they told us the second plane. And when it went down, the starter came over and said, "Listen, you guys have been called into work."
Oh man!
And it was a total recall. And we all just jumped in our cars, went home, and then straight in. Wow. And then I went to a staging area, and then later on, I ended up downtown, down at the
Ground Zero
Twin Towers.
If you had not been so fortunate to have a golf day that day, do you suppose you would have gone up in that building?
Oh, no, because I worked in South Jamaica, Queens.
Oh, okay.
And the people who died were pretty much South Manhattan, Brooklyn, one area of Brooklyn, and Midtown Manhattan. Yeah. Those are the guys that were the first due to that job. We call them jobs. Some people in Brooklyn, but most of the people in Queens were going there afterwards, after the building collapsed already.
Right.
Yeah.
As far as responding with the rigs, Queens and the Bronx also. That's pretty far away from there, further than Queens actually. Oh. So anybody that worked at Queens and the Bronx and Upper Manhattan and Staten, pretty much were later on. Now 700 people have died because of the toxic
air and fumes.
Did you have to work at the site afterwards? You mentioned your lungs.
Oh, yeah. I was there for a long time. Yeah, digging, and we were digging for looking for
bodies.
For people.
Yeah. Oh,
bodies.
God.
But after when we got there that first day, we knew nobody surviving.
No way. So how is your breathing? Are you breathing, within reason, or is it going to affect you long term?
I'm fine. I just cough a lot. I still keep active. I just cough and cough a lot here and there. But I'm good. They retired me with chronic bronchitis. But listen, I'm alive and I'm doing good.
Hey, you sound great.
Shape, so thank you. Yeah, I do. I feel good. And thank you so much for asking.
No, we could not have stumbled into a better interview about Rex Heuermann. Honest to God.
Thanks for calling us back.
And you got so much color in your descriptions, and we really do appreciate it. And who knows? Is it okay if we call you back? If we have some questions?
What's this? What's your name?
Drew and Trudy and Mark's here, and it's actually the Drew and Mike Show. If you want to Google us and see what we're all about, Google the Drew and Mike Show, and you'll see that.
The Drew and Mike Show?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Mike is deceased.
Are you a radio show or something?
We were a radio show for about 22 years on WRIF in Detroit, and then we were unceremoniously dumped.
They were retired.
What are you doing now?
Podcast.
Yes.
We're podcasting.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Hey, you got to keep working, make the money. What the hell?
Yeah, we were able to pull a lot of our radio audience over here to the podcast, so we've been doing that for 8 years. It's going well. But yeah, we might.
That's pretty much. that's pretty much all I know. I mean, I don't know how much more I could.
Well, you're an interesting guy, though.
No, I know, but you're a valuable resource. Who knows? We might have a question about the Baldwins, or about the Mets, or about the Yankees, or who knows?
I've got another one.
We got so we got Seinfeld's here. This Massapequa was a cool place. I seen a thing on Facebook where somebody said it's the coolest place in Long Island now. They got the Baldwins, the Seinfeld, the mob is here.
Yeah.
That's why I said, is it okay if we call back sometime? You never know.
Yeah, sure. What
Okay.
the hell? Just say this is your buddies from Motown,
I
for
know.
God's sakes.
That's what I was going to say. Well, thank you so much again. You really added a lot to the story.